Hey ho, welcome back to the show. Ain't this a beautiful time of year, folks? To be perfectly honest with you, in my humble opinion, this is the most beautiful time of the year up here in Hokkaido. The fall colors are excellent, and this year they are absolutely blazing. And I don't know about you, but I think this year, the 2025, the reds, golds, and oranges have just been popping off just a little extra vibrantly this year, eh? It's good for the soul having all that eye candy out there, right? And that fresh and crisp kind of touch to the air feels great too. You know what I mean? And I always find this time of year there's a real added bonus to the air being that much colder. The air being that much colder, the temperature being that much cooler. Let me tell you why. You might not notice this if you don't spend a lot of time out on your bike. Sometimes when you're out there on your bike and you'll fall into a kind of a leapfrog pattern with a bus, right? The bus will stop 50 meters up the road and then you'll pass it. The bus passes you, you pass the bus, right? You're playing leapfrog with the bus. We've all done that on our bikes, right? But for those of you non-cyclists out there, or maybe those of you that only spend time in the mountains or in the country, have you ever played leapfrog with a garbage truck in the steaming heat of summer? Ugh, God, it's awful. The smells that come off those things as you're leapfrogging back and forth with them is awful. Yeah, I mean, sure, you can ditch off the route, but there's always the hope that, you catch a red light or they catch a red light and you get to power on ahead or at least fall behind. But, it's awful in the summer scorching heat. When those trucks heat up, when those metal buckets of garbage heat up, the smell that comes off them is awful. And that is just a little added bonus to riding in cooler weather, folks. You don't have the stench when you're playing leapfrog with garbage trucks. Anyway, before I fully get into the rides for fall colors this week, as this episode is titled Chasing Fall Colors, ain't that a little romantic touch to a title for the podcast, folks? I have to welcome some new countries to the show. Over the past couple of weeks, I've had listeners join in from Mexico, Ireland, Denmark, Bahrain, and Kenya. Welcome to the show, folks. And not only that, but in the countries that have been listening all along, I always see new cities popping up as somebody has had a listen to the show. I think over the past couple of weeks in the state of New Jersey in America, in the state of New Jersey, people have listened in Jersey City, Newark, and Bridgewater, I think the cities were. Thank you to all of you out there that have listened. Thank you. Seeing all those new places, listening to the show makes it really interesting for me. Thank you. And also, one more thing I want to add this week. Over the past few weeks, some poll results have come in, and I thought some of them have been kind of interesting. For the poll from episode 109, what kind of person are you? That's the name of the poll. 80% of you answered, let's get up and at 'em. You're a go-get-'em type. While 20% of you prefer just to chill out and let the hours slip by. In episode 110, the poll's title was, have you ever been to Daisetsuzan National Park? 50% answered yes, and 50% answered no. And in episode 111, the question, are you a history buff? Meaning, do you like history? In case you didn't know what history buff meant. 80% of you answered yes, 20% answered no. Folks, thank you a whole bunch for taking the time to vote in the polls. That kind of adds a little extra dimension to the show, I do believe. All right, folks, back to the fall colors. So, last week, I had the entirety of Thursday off. All day and all evening were completely mine. So I took the opportunity to head out to see the fall colors. And annually, there are a couple of spots in Sapporo I love to check out. Those are Makomanai Park and Jozankei. Both those places are located in South Sapporo and are absolutely amazing in the fall. Those places, both being in Sapporo, the ride itself, wasn't very exotic. From Ishikari, I just went straight down Ishikari Kaido to the Toyohira River, then straight along Toyohira River to west along Toyohira River to Makomanai Park. Makomanai Park was originally the main site for the 1972 Winter Olympics. In it, there is an open-air stadium, an ice arena, a salmon museum, baseball diamonds nearby. There's all kinds of good stuff in that park. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. After the Olympics were finished, though, they fully turned it into a park, and it was open to the public in 1975. There are over 10 kilometers of walking paths that are gorgeously lined with cherry blossoms, maple trees, ginkgo trees, you name it. I'm obviously leaving out a whole ton of types of tree that are in there, but it is a gorgeous place to spend time, whether you're there for a marathon, whether you're there for sports, or whether you're there just to hang out and have a picnic with your family. It is a beautiful place to be. So the walking paths right now are just ablaze with color every year at this time of the year. It's beautiful. I was there on October 30th. So by the time this podcast comes out Friday, it might be over in Makomanai Park, but you still might be able to catch some of the colors. I don't think it will be completely finished. But what I also love about that park is how happy people look when they are in it. Ain't it great? Seeing smiles on people's faces out and about in the public, doing things they want to do. It rubs off on you, right? And especially at this time of year, people look like they're having just a great time taking pictures of the colors, and not just of the colors, but taking pictures with the colors. There are always people that seem to get dressed up a bit to take their pictures with the fall colors. It's great to see. I kind of like imagining that it's an annual event for families to get dressed up and get a family photo in that seasonal splendor. And of course, all my fall color pics are up on the Cycling Hokkaido podcast's Instagram page. So after I did a lap around Makomanai Park, taking in the beautiful colors, it was off to see the colors in Jozankei. I think I mentioned this before, but I always find the ride from the Toyohira River to Jozankei pretty annoying because it is a steady, constant, gradual climb. And I think, as I mentioned in the Yakumo episode, I don't just ride along Route 230. For the most part, I go along the country roads that are just to the north of Route 230. It's the better way to get to Jozankei from Makomanai. And you can see that route on my Ride with GPS account. I'll add links to that as well in the show notes. So if you're ever looking for a way to avoid a bit of cars, a bit of traffic when you're heading into Jozankei, follow along that route that's on the GPS account. Right, so as I was saying, it is a steady climb. And actually, the main resort area of Jozankei is 300 meters above sea level. So, yeah, see, it's a gradual, annoying climb. Some climbs are like that. It doesn't feel like it should be a climb. The terrain doesn't look like it should be a climb, but it is. You're not getting much over 13, 14 kilometers. And you're like, what is this? You're like, oh, yeah, slow, gentle, annoying. Okay, a little bit of information for those that don't know about Jozankei. Jozankei is one of the most famous hot spring resort towns in Hokkaido and has had a hot spring resort for 155 years. Ever since the ascetic monk Mizumi Jozan, my man, founded the first hot spring spa in the area with the help of the Ainu. And kind of from that time, it slowly developed into the resort town that we have today. I mean, what was it? Episode 15. I talked about the title of episode 15, is I think a pilgrimage to Asari. And that's kind of where I found out about the story of Mizumi Jozan. You know, how he used to just kind of wander around the forests living the life of an ascetic monk. Really interesting cat. And a cool story. But that's been done in previous podcasts. So maybe you don't want to hear that again. But anyway, in Jozankei, there's a famous view of the gorge out front of the Jozankei View Hotel. But honestly, folks, this time when I was there, it really wasn't that good. It kind of looked like the fall colors were over. It looked like it was done, and hey, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose with the fall colors, right? So I was kind of disappointed at that stage of my fall colors adventure. One thing that I actually did do for the first time while I was there in Jozankei was try one of the small hot spring foot baths, the open air hot spring foot baths. I tried the kind of one that's at the first intersection as you get into Jozankei, which is called the Taro no Yu foot bath. It is named that for the Kappa statue that's there. Kappa. Do you know what Kappa is? Okay, well, for those of you who don't know what Kappa are, they are mythical amphibious humanoids in Japanese folklore. They're a kind of mix of human, monkey, and turtle, and are known as river children. And apparently, these cheeky buggers can be quite dangerous, mischievous. They're supposed to be pranksters in lore, right? In fairy tales and things like that. They've got another very interesting characteristic to their physicality, in that they have an indentation on the top of their head that holds water. And that water is where they're supposed to get their supernatural power from. I thought that was pretty cool. And if any of this water spills out, they lose power. Cool. Again, I'd never heard of supernatural beings carrying water around in a dent in their head. I've met a few people with dents in their heads, but they seem to have supernatural powers of another type. Anyway, kappa. They apparently also love cucumbers. Folks, have you ever been to a sushi place, maybe a rolling sushi bar, a sushi, whatever, and you get something called kappa maki? It's cucumber rolled up in rice and seaweed. I can't believe I just found this out like yesterday when I was putting together this episode of the show. It's cucumber because kappa like cucumber, so that's where that comes from, kappa maki. I thought it was just because it was green. Sometimes I feel so dumb. 26 years and I didn't know that kappa's favorite food. 26 years in Japan and I didn't know kappa's favorite food was cucumber. And that's why that one type of sushi is called kappa maki. I honestly, legit, up until yesterday, folks, yeah, laugh at me, write in, call me dumb. I thought it was just because it was green. Oops. And Jozankei is supposed to be just crawling with kappa. They're supposed to be everywhere. But I digress, right? That foot bath, that open air foot bath, Taru no Yu, just felt wonderful after a ride on a cold day. And I gotta tell you, I was quite proud of myself for remembering to bring a towel to dry my feet. Bringing towels Bringing useful items like that is one thing I am not good at, folks. And it's not just about being on the bike. If I head off to hockey, I forget a towel for my visor. I forgot tape. You, it happens. But especially sometimes when I'm trying to get out of the house for a ride, I kind of feel rushed because I want to get out there and get at it. And I sometimes forget little things like a towel to dry my feet. Now, had I forgotten the towel, I would have just walked around the pavement until my feet were reasonably dry enough to put back into my shoes and socks. But no, folks, this was a great victory for me. I remembered my towel. But don't you worry, folks. If you do forget a towel, there is a vending machine with towels beside the bath. Okay? Right. So, after my foot bath, I went exploring a bit more, and I am absolutely stoked I did, folks. I found, for the first time for me, I found the Futami Valley, and that place is gorgeous. Well, first of all, there is a really nice park where they've set up some what looked to be really interesting nighttime illuminations that looked like they'd be great fun. You know, like if you step on a couple of spots in one area of the garden, it's supposed to illuminate to look like you've stepped in a puddle or something like that. And they've got some of the fall colors under illumination. It looks like a really, really nice looking park, which is just in front of the Futami Valley. That looks like it'd be fun. I'm going to see if I can't convince my wife to take an evening's drive down there sometime soon. Also in that park, there's a statue of the king of the Kappa. So I had to, snap a quick selfie with the king. How can you not get a picture of the king, right? It was fun. I like doing stupid stuff like that, folks. Shoot me. So then I walked farther along and came across the Futami Suspension Bridge, which looked just gorgeous crossing the Tohohira River. I mean, the bright red of that bridge in contrast with the forest is really a really cool scene. So I crossed the bridge and then I parked my bike over the other side of the bridge. I was walking at this point. You can't really ride in that area. Obviously, rocks and stairs and things like that. Other tourists. I didn't want to be bashing people to the side as I'm trying to get through this, what's supposed to be a pleasant area to stroll in. So anyway, I parked my bike and had a little hike up along the river. And just beautiful, beautiful scenery. And I got real lucky because the colors, once you walked further along, the fall colors were just way better than in the gorge, which was probably, maybe a kilometer behind me at that point. But not only at that point of the Toyohira River, well, it was interesting seeing the Toyohira River there as well because it's so much smaller than when it is out in the middle of the city, in the middle of Sapporo. But also at that point along the river, I had the fall colors, but there are also cliffs from the mountains that are just kind of falling into the river that just looked excellent. There were giant, huge boulders to climb over as I'm hiking along the river. That was great fun as well. Of course, everything is kind of slippery at the moment because of fallen leaves and wet leaves. It was kind of, you got to watch your footing. And also interesting to see down there how the weather was so different. I guess with it being that much higher up, they actually still had snow on the ground. And actually, when I was cycling into Jozankei along Route 230 in the morning, the south side sidewalk was unrideable. It was covered in snow, while the north side was clear as day. There was not a flake of snow on that side of the road. It just, it depends where the sun hits and the shade hits. But really interesting to see that Jozankei still had that much snow while Sapporo had nothing. It's, just a few kilometers and a few hundred meters of elevation just makes that much difference. You know what I mean? But yeah, so of course, as I'm climbing over boulders, I'm hiking through, this beautiful river walk. Um, this year being what it is, being in that type of environment, my bear senses were running on high alert. But never fear, I made it out alive. This year's just been ridiculous with the bears, hasn't it? Did you see in the news that the governor of Akita Prefecture, which is in North Honshu, not in Hokkaido, folks, the governor of the prefecture is actually talking to the military, the Japanese army, about helping out with this year's bear problem. Holy smokes, I read that and I was just like, what is going on? What is that? What is the army? You're going to call in the army for bears? Like, holy jeez. Like, what did they say? There have been 12 people killed in Japan this year by bear attack. A lot more bear human encounters. Yeah, which is usually never good. It's not a positive thing. I get that. But do you really need to call in the army? What are they going to do? Come on, boys! Hand grenades and flamethrowers, and off we go into the woods. I can't picture what possible. Well, I guess, okay, sure, the army's got all the guns, right? But they're not trained bear hunters. I don't know, maybe it shouldn't have, but that just kind of struck me as funny that the governor was actually in talks with the with the army to handle the bear problem. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I'd had a kind of enough of the hike, and on my way back to my bike, as I love doing, I met a nice young couple who were just starting out their walk along the river. The guy was from Spain. The lady was from Vietnam. I have no idea what their names were. It was a brief chat. A bit of Sapporo this, a bit of Sapporo that. They'd only been in town 4 days, and they were just having a great time, enjoying all the scenery, and they seemed like really nice people. So hey, Spain, Vietnam, if you listen to this, yes, I'm talking about you. Anyway, then it was off home for me that day. All in, that ride was 90 kilometers, just 90 kilometers for me, with 579 meters of climbing in total. A good ride in Sapporo for the fall colors. Now, but that's not where I want to end off today, folks, because I've got one more ride for colors to tell you about. Again, this past week and a half, this last couple of weeks, Sapporo has just been blazing. It's been excellent. So getting out for a couple or 3, 4 rides a season has been great fun. And actually, I see some of you good people that I follow. I follow your Instagram accounts. I see some of you folks that are riding down south. You're starting to get some nice colors down there as well, eh? Beautiful looking pictures to all of you. I'm sure you know who you are. But this past Monday was a national holiday here in Japan. Culture Day, or Bunka no Hi in Japanese. So, the Englishman and I took off to a place called Kuriyama to see the fall colors at the Kobayashi Sake Brewery. First the ride, folks, okay? I rode down to meet the Englishman at the Lawson's convenience store at Route 36 and the Toyohira River, kind of where they cross. From there, that's about, 15 kilometers for me to start off the day. Then from there, we rode along the Toyohira River, east this time. Then we got on to the Higashi Karui Ebetsu line, rode that for a while. Then we rode up north, up Yonban-dori. Then it was kind of up, we made our way to the Yubari River, a couple of, you got to cross a couple of bridges here and there through one short tunnel, and then you make your way to the Yubari River. And we just took the Yubari River all the way to Kuriyama. That's not completely accurate, but I don't know the names of the roads we are on. Again, you can check well, the reason I don't know the names of the roads is because a lot of them don't have names. I know from one point after we got off the Ubari River at a golf course, we slid over and rode up Route 1080. And then that took us pretty much straight into the heart of Kuriyama. And again, you can see the route on the Ride with GPS maps that I'll, again, be providing links to in the show notes if you're interested in doing this ride yourself. Or even if you just curious to ride to the Kobayashi Sake Brewery in Kuriyama. It's a beautiful place. But anyway, while we were riding along, the colors in the hills surrounding the Ubari River were just excellent. They were kind of looked like a patchwork quilt. You know, you'd have all the reds, golds, and still spots some greens. So the colors are not done blazing yet, folks. This weekend might be a really, really good chance to kind of see the last of them. I recommend it if you haven't been out to see the fall colors yet. Also, the hills coming into Naganuma were great. Just all the colors were popping really, really nicely. It was perfect. The whole day was perfect. Except for the wind. Woo-hoo! Holy smokes. It was windy on Bunka no Hi. Folks, it was so windy. My eyes were painfully dry by the time I got home. But it was worth it because the maples and whatever trees they were at the sake brewery were just blazing. And that place is gorgeous at this time of year. It looks great at all times of year. In winter, all of it has beautiful scenery because of the very, very historical buildings there. And, you know, in the gardens that are located in the brewery, they have all the little kind of stone Japanese lanterns scattered out throughout the place, which make for just a beautiful scene. And again, all my pictures are up on the Cycling Hokkaido Instagram page. But not only is it beautiful for fall colors and scenery, and the buildings are so historical, in fact, that the Kobayashi Sake Brewery is actually a registered historic site. It's mostly brick buildings, the whole grounds, and 13 of their brick buildings are registered as tangible cultural properties of Japan. Not just Hokkaido, folks, of Japan. The Kobayashi Sake Brewery, the company, was founded in Sapporo in 1878, which makes it the oldest brewery in Hokkaido, and it moved to Kuriyama in 1900. Been there a long time, folks. But I was reading that I guess the land, the area where they are, with its closeness to the Ubari River, made it just kind of a great spot for making sake. Plus, at the time, places like Ubari City, and all the kind of coal miners, all the kind of coal mining towns around the area were just booming at the time. And guess what, folks? Coal miners, on their time off from work, guess what they like to do? That's right, knock back a tipple or two. This being Japan, sake is the booze of the nation. So being close to all those working men was also a pretty smart business decision. Apparently, they sold, just tons and tons of sake to keep the keep the coal miners liquored. But now that all the coal mines and the coal miners are all gone, the brewery's still there, and it's become a piece of Japanese history. So the museum is also really, really interesting inside, and apparently the restaurant, their handmade soba is great. I have heard from many, many people that the handmade soba on the ground is excellent. So I don't know if you're one of those people that comes to Japan for very specific types of food. You might want to give the soba at the Kobayashi Sake Brewery a go. And of course, In the gift shop, there are free samples of sake to be had. And also, of course, I did not have any sake, folks. Having a beer in cycling or anything like that, it's getting real strict here in Japan. It's under the same laws as driving now, so which is like zero tolerance. I'm not quite sure how they'd catch you on a bike, but I guess sorry. Obviously, some accident would happen and you'd be done for. Right. Anyway, just don't drink and bike, folks, here. It's not worth it. It's not worth the large fines and possible jail time. But as I was saying, also inside the gift shop, they have an actual samurai suit of armor, which every time I go to that brewery, I have a look at it because I think it looks really, really cool. It's kept in this big vault. It looks like it's real secure. So I always thought it was the genuine article. I thought it was the real deal. But nope. As I was putting together this episode, folks, I found out that specific samurai suit of armor in the brewery is a replica. Disappointment. But apparently, it was made with traditional materials and techniques. It's just not an original antique. It's still apparently very valuable, but again, it's not an original antique. Oh well, that's just another little bubble burst, I suppose. I should have known, but they keep it in a vault, so it's got to be. I thought the vault lended authenticity to the thing, right? But again, I guess it's still valuable, but I feel like they're putting it in a vault for a bit of show now. I'm definitely disappointed about this, folks. But anyway, I think that spot, that brewery in Kuriyama, was definitely the highlight of this year's color viewing. And it might just be every year. I'm telling you, folks, the grounds there are just gorgeous. The fall colors right now are definitely winding down. But even if you head out this weekend, you should be able to see quite a few spots still sporting red, orange, and yellow leaves. So, after we kind of wrapped up our visit at the Kobayashi Sake Brewery, it was time for the windy ride home. And we went pretty much the same way home as getting there, but I did something a little different this time. Sometimes getting home from that area of Hokkaido, getting back to Ishikari, it's super easy just to take Route 337. But I find Route 337 to be super boring. There's a lot of cars. It's a very, very busy road. So I thought I'd try something different. So this way, I went along Route 275 for most of my way home. It was better because it's less of a highway, so cars are going slower. There's still cars. There's more to look at, for sure. I think Route 275 for me, getting home from that kind of Naganuma uni area, I think Route 275 is the better route. So I think I'm going to take that from now on. All in, on the day, the ride for me was 109 kilometers with just 343 meters of climbing. So, as you can tell, it was a very, very flat ride. That area, there's not a lot of climbing. But again, those vibrant colors were well worth braving the elements, dodging the wind, making myself scarce from kappa. It's been a great season chasing the fall color, folks. It has been a lot of fun out there. Hokkaido is just an absolutely beautiful place at this time of year. And I hope you are all having a great fall. And as always, I hope you enjoyed and found value in this episode of the Cycling Hokkaido podcast. Have fun out there. Love ya. Cycling Hokkaido!